Hello and welcome back to the Jag Bros podcast. It's week 16. We're coming down the home stretch. I am one of your hosts, JT Raymond, alongside my two brothers, Jack and Joey. We've been on the highs this year with the 5-game win streak, and we've been on the lows. And currently, right now, we're closer to the low than the high. But huge game on Christmas Eve this Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock Eastern against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Boy, I'm getting a little nervous about this one.
I see a lot of Jaguars fans talking about the playoffs, and all I've got to say is, playoffs? I just want to win a game.
You know what? I was feeling nervous too, but then I actually took a further look into Tampa Bay, and I don't know if I'm that nervous for them anymore. Their only victories have really come from the Panthers, the Falcons, the Titans, the Saints, the Bears, and just now the Packers. And those are all teams that we've pretty much already beaten. So this team is going to be difficult, but I'm not as scared as I think I was.
Well, that's why they play the games, because you know what? Right now, we are trending in the wrong direction with 3 straight losses. And Tampa Bay, despite playing against mediocre competition, is trending in the right direction with 3 straight wins. So it'll be a fun game Sunday afternoon. Jack, playoffs, you're right. Right now, Jacksonville is a 71% chance of still making the playoffs on the optimistic side. But man, it does not feel good right now to be a Jacksonville Jaguar fan. So with that, we're going to break down some of this upcoming matchup. We'll look at the offensive side of the ball for the Jags and then flip that to the defensive side of the ball, give our keys to the game, which unfortunately the Jaguars have not been hitting some of our keys to the game over the last few weeks, which also coincides with several frustrating losses. And then we'll give our score predictions. Before we dive into those games, though, what's your confidence level for this team, regardless of opponent we're going to play against, going into the game on Sunday?
My confidence level in this team right now is shaky 5 out of 10. There's sparks and it looks good at some points, but then there's also breakdowns and just clunkiness throughout the game as well. I think with a lesser opponent right now with the Tampa Bay, we should be pretty confident in this game. We play well against worser teams, and they don't have that great of a defense. So I'm pretty confident in the Jags winning this game. But in the Jags as a team and as a whole, I still don't think we're going to perform that well, but I do think we'll win.
My confidence level right now is probably about a 2. Now, we are recording this on Wednesday. In being a delusional Jaguars fan, my confidence meter by the time Sunday kicks off will probably be a 7, 8, 9, 10, feeling like, oh, we're going to for sure win this. But right now, coming off that Sunday night football disaster, Tampa Bay needs this game as well. They're tied for first in their division, and we just haven't showed up to the big games. So my confidence level is very, very low right now.
Yeah, the Tampa Bay Bucs can score. I mean, they could, even in losses, they're scoring a lot of points, 37 points to the Texans, 20 points to the Colts. They've just scored 34 against Green Bay in Green Bay. So, yeah, I'm going to be right there with you at a 1 or a 2 right now. Obviously, Trevor's in concussion protocol. We're recording this Wednesday. We're going to break this game down as if he is playing. But Zay Jones is going to be out. Christian Kirk's going to be out. The defense has played well, but you're going against a very good passing attack in the Buccaneers. I don't really have a lot of confidence going into this game, unfortunately. And that's the state of Jacksonville football right now.
Yeah, that's the state right now. I think that's how a lot of fans are feeling. But let's go ahead and jump into the game breakdown. So let's look at our offense going up against this Tampa Bay defense. And the good news, Joey, you hit this earlier, this will be the worst secondary we play all season. So Tampa Bay is 31st in pass yards, only ahead of the LA Chargers, which that is a hot mess right there. But thinking about the Jaguars offense coming off a game where they left so many points on the field, only scoring 7 points on Sunday, how does the offense turn it around and get a lot of points against a potentially weak defense in the Buccaneers?
Well, it's going to come down to whether Trevor Lawrence plays or not. I have a good feeling that he's going to come out of the concussion protocol like Brock Purdy in 1 week and play. Like, we know how tough he is. High ankle sprain doesn't stop him. His knee getting hurt doesn't stop him. I just have really good feeling that he's going to play. And with him playing, I think that it's going to be a little difficult for this offense to get things rolling with how many wide receivers will be missing. Zay Jones most likely will be out. Christian Kirk's still going to be out. And it's a bit of a still beat up offensive line. So it's going to be difficult to get this offense rolling. It's going to be up to the defense to get some turnovers and some really good field position for this offense to score.
Yeah, this has been a pass funnel defense. They're bottom 3 in almost every single category. Everybody, and I mean everybody, has had offensive success through the air. They're also horrible at covering tight ends. They're right there with the Jaguars as bottom 4 in covering the tight ends. So that's going to be an opportunity for us. They have been pretty good against the run. Now, if you look at some of the trending metrics, they haven't been as good over the last 3 or 4 weeks. So we could be catching them at the right time. But as we continue to say over and over again, it doesn't really matter if they are dead last in running. We have not shown that we can run on anybody, and we have also not shown that we're willing to make a commitment to the run, especially if we fall behind even 7 points against some of these teams. So looking at the passing game, this should set up much better than the last few weeks that we've some of the defenses that we played. The Browns and the Ravens are both top 5 in pass defenses and middling in run defense. And then the Bengals are middling in pass defense and bottom 5 in rush defense. And so like all of those matchups really were not great for what Jacksonville wants to do, I guess, on offense.
That's a great point, JT. If there's any hope, it is the fact that this is the game to get it right for the Jaguars offense, because you are coming off back-to-back games against 2 of the best defenses in the league, and the Bucs are not that. So, we can look at several of these players. They do have, some strong players, and Winfield Sr. is a very strong playmaker, ball hawk for their defense, 4 sacks, over 100 tackles, 2 picks, 11 pass deflections. They have a good interior pass rush, which leads them to about 10th or 11th in sacks currently. But honestly, this preview is all about the Jaguars not beating themselves. You think about that Ravens game again, 2 missed field goals. They fumble the ball inside the 20-yard line on a phantom fumble where they're finally starting to drive the ball. They have that drive at the end of the first half where they run out of time on the 4-yard line. And then they have a touchdown to Calvin Ridley that doesn't get called in the second half. You're talking about 20 to 30 points right there. So if the Jaguars offense doesn't beat themselves, we're fine and we win this game. But that's a huge if.
Yeah, but there's also a big question in this wide receiver core. Someone's going to have to step up with all these injuries. And I have a question for y'all. Who do you think is going to be the person that steps up against the Bucs? Is it going to be Tim Jones? Is it going to be Agnew? Is it going to be Elijah Cooks? Or is it going to be Parker Washington? Which of those 4 do you think is going to pop off and make a game against the Bucs?
It's frustrating because I think it has to be Agnew. He's the only one who's shown that he can consistently get open. Now, you are going a step down in class, so it's possible that Parker Washington is able to start getting separation, because against the Ravens and against the Browns, he really wasn't getting the separation you want to see. Obviously, nowhere near the level of Christian Kirk. And everybody else has been relatively unproven, right? Elijah Cook dropped the 1 pass that was targeted to him now as a rocket, but dropped the 1 pass that was targeted to him. Tim Jones has gotten a decent amount of playing time with Zay Jones being injured, and he's done absolutely next to nothing. So I think this is going to be a game where Evan Ingram is going to get 12 to 15 targets. I think this is a game where Calvin Ridley will probably get 10 to 15 targets, and the rest of the team just does what they do. And I think you probably live with that, considering Ridley and Ingram should be favored in any type of matchup the Bucs throw at them.
I agree with you, JT. And if I had to pick of the 4 guys you listed, Joey, I would actually go with Parker Washington. But I think this has to be a big game for Evan Ingram, because, and it feels a whole lot like the Chiefs offense right now. Now, part of that is injuries, of course, but when Patrick Mahomes has the ball, who is he looking for over and over and over again? It's Kelsey. And yet, most of the time, people can't stop them. And I think that's going to be the Jaguars offense. They're going to have to dare the Bucs to stop Trevor Lawrence, to stop Evan Ingram, because frankly, they shouldn't be able to. Evan Ingram is a matchup nightmare, and he should be able to have a very good game on Sunday.
The other thing to call out about this Bucs defense too is they're very good in the red zone. So the Ravens were second in the red zone and Tampa Bay's third. So they're right there. And so talking about some of the troubles that we've had all around finishing drives, they are very good at in the red zone. Kind of speaks to the fact that they've been good at run defense. You have big guys like Vita Vea and some other aging veterans that are still pretty good on that defense, especially in the front seven. And so can we be able to execute in plus territory and come away at this point just with points, but realistically and more importantly, touchdowns when you're going to be playing one of the hotter quarterbacks right now in the NFL on the other side?
Speaking of points, do we want to stir the pot here a little bit and just say that Riley Patterson was just waived by the Detroit Lions?
I think if you see McManus miss a kick this week, especially if it's a big kick, I would not be shocked at all if he is let go, because there clearly seems to be some animosity going on right now between him and Doug Peterson. Joey, you outlined the fact that even when he does make kicks, he doesn't really look that happy. And so I would not be surprised if in the next couple of weeks we do end up moving on from him.
Yeah, I'm with you, JT. I think his time is really coming up in Jacksonville. And if he has another miss, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets waived and we go get another kicker, either Riley Patterson or someone else, honestly, because I've never seen Doug so upset with one specific player than he has been with McManus. Something else I wanted to bring up, in case Trevor can't go, well, seeing that CJ Beathard still has a little bit of an injury, we went out and picked up EJ Perry since Nathan Rourke was picked up by the Patriots. What do you guys think about that?
Number one, the tragedy of Nathan Rourke no longer being a Jaguar. Number two, I also know EJ Perry has never taken an NFL snap. So I think my confidence meter, if EJ Perry is out there, goes from 2 to negative 100.
Yeah. I mean, the only good thing about him potentially being our starter is the fact that there would be literally zero tape on him. The guy was a quarterback at Boston College and Brown University. So he was not good enough to stay at Boston College. He ended up going to Brown. So if we are in a situation where playing him, I mean, our season should be over at that point, but yeah, he's been on the practice squad for the Texans. He played for the Michigan Panthers in the USFL for a second and then was released by them. And then obviously is now on the Jaguars team.
Whew, not a great back track record for EJ. Really sad to see Nathan Rourke go. I was one of his biggest fans. I really wanted to see him get a shot with the backup quarterback job here, but hopefully, and I wish him all the best of luck at the Patriots, and hopefully he can show what he's capable of. But let's go ahead and transition into our defense against this Bucs offense. What do y'all think about Baker Mayfield?
Baker's been solid. I think a lot of people were thinking that, hey, this is going to be more of a 50-50 chance between him and Kyle Trask. I think a lot of folks also thought the Bucs were going to be closer to a dumpster fire than anything, but they've really outperformed a lot of their expectations. Jack, you mentioned it. They are right now tied for first and have the tiebreaker within their division. And so they have a lot to play for. And a lot of it is because their offense has been so successful. They're routinely putting up 25 plus points per game. And Baker has had a nice season, throwing for 24 touchdowns, 3,300 yards so far, and only 8 interceptions. I say only, which is not a great number by any means, but certainly better than Trevor's 10 interceptions, not to mention all the fumbles Trevor has had thus far. And so, yeah, they played pretty well.
I've got to be honest, I'm shocked by the performance Baker is putting up. I thought he was going to be more or less done in the NFL, and he's had quite a resurgence this year. So he looks every bit of an NFL starting quarterback this year. So, and of course, he's got some great weapons. He's got that duo that's been with the Bucs for a long time, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. They're both going to finish well over 1,000 yards. Evans is that red zone beast target. He's got 11 touchdowns for the year. Godwin's that guy you got to watch over the middle of the field. So he's got weapons and he can be dangerous. They can put up some points.
Those wide receivers are dangerous, and it's going to be difficult for our secondary because some of our guys are on the shorter side, and those are taller wide receivers. So that's definitely going to be a bit of an issue for our defense. But somewhere where we stack up well is that the Bucs technically right now are 29th in rushing, only getting 90 yards per game. So our defense could really tee up against their rush attack and stop that in its track and make the Bucs offense very one-dimensional.
I would hope so, but here's the issue. If you look at a lot of the trending metrics, we're trending really bad on run defense recently. We gave a ton of yards to the Bengals, over 120 yards on the ground. We gave 250 yards to the Ravens last week, and then now we're going against a team and Rashada White, who he's a top 10 running back from rushing, but even more importantly, he's a guy who's top 5 in receiving receptions and yards for running backs. And if you look at who is dead last right now at giving up receptions and yards to running backs through the air, it is Jacksonville yet again. And so that is going to be an area where I'm sure Tampa Bay will be looking to take advantage of it, and is certainly Baker's probably third favorite target besides Evans and Godwin. So that's a guy who you really need to see us be able to slow down.
Jack, who do you think needs to have a big game on the defense to help shut down this actually pretty powerful Bucs offense?
Yeah, I think it's got to come from our pass rush. We've been weak in this area, but we've had two guys play, one exceptionally well in Josh Allen, then Trayvon Walker decently well. And so I hope they can both have a big game. And then another guy that is on the waivers, that's a potential Jaguars target, is Justin Houston. So a veteran presence, and we keep banging the table. Hey, free agents keep popping up because we're really not getting any other pass rush except for these two guys. Hey, one more shot. I would love to see us at least put in a claim for Justin Houston and at least take our pass rush up one level, because Baker Mayfield, they had an incredible game against the Packers, 37 points, but he was sacked 5 times. And so I think if we can get pass rush sacks that lead to turnovers, I love our defense in this game.
Speaking of our pass rush and going out and possibly getting another guy, whatever happened to Yes Sir? Like, he was possibly going to be a player during the offseason and started to play a few games, but then he's disappeared. I don't even see him on like the injured list, but I don't even see him on the field dressing. Have y'all heard anything about him?
He must not be good enough. That he's been a healthy scratch several times. And now he's one of those guys too, that, okay, if we didn't have injuries and activating Buster Brown and we weren't activating some of these deeper receivers, he probably is able to dress and get a few snaps. But look, I mean, let's be honest. I think some of the hype that we saw on those second and third string guys and some of those rookies and masterclass of a draft last year, it wasn't. Outside of Antonio Johnson, I don't think any of the late round guys have really made Parker Washington too. Any of those other late round guys have even made a remote impact on a game. And then even the top guys, look, we've been hard on Anton Harrison before, but like realistically, he is playing very well for a rookie. And I'm not saying that he hasn't played well. I'm just saying comparatively, he hasn't played as well as other more senior level right tackles, which makes sense considering where he's at in his career. But everybody else in that draft class has been almost non-existent.
No question. No question. Anton Harrison has been great. I actually ran across this from John Shipley recently, running his PFF numbers compared to all the other rookie offensive tackles with at least 100 snaps. And he's number one in just about every pass block category for rookie offensive tackles. Number one in pass pro efficiency. Number two in pass pro efficiency on true pass sets. Number one in blown block percentage, which means he has the lowest. And then number two in WAR, wins above replacement. So he's been great. But everyone else, Tank Bigsby has had all those fumbles. Brenton Strange has been quiet. He's had some injuries. Ventrell Miller in the 4th round got hurt before the season. And then, other than Antonio Johnson and Parker Washington, no one else has really seen the field, unfortunately.
Yeah, it wasn't, I guess, the greatest draft class. I know we were hyped on some of them, and we were definitely feeding into some of the raw the media was feeding us, but they have definitely disappeared and not contributed that well. But very happy about Antonio Johnson, Parker Washington, and Anton Harrison. Hopefully we can get some more next draft. But until then, let's get to the keys of the game and talk about what this team needs to do to get back in the W column.
Yeah, I referenced it in the offensive breakdown. I'm going to reiterate it. Look, we're not going to be able to run the ball. So that is completely out. Trevor, whether he plays or not, is going to be interesting. But what I think I need to see is Ridley and Ingram both have great games. I think combined, in order to win this game, they need to combine for about 220 yards, whether that's 200 by one and 20 by the other, or some level of mismatch there. I think we're going to need a huge production from them, because I don't really see a whole lot of the other offensive weapons coming together. And we know the Buccaneers will score, because the Jaguars are still bottom 5 in most pass defense statistics. So then on the defensive side of the ball, look, we've been talking about turnovers a lot. I think that is still an opportunity. Baker is still known for some turnovers, but I'm also going to stick with what I was talking about on the defensive side of the ball. And I think the key is Rachaad White. I think he needs to have less than 80 yards either on the ground or through the air. If we can limit that to about 75, 80 yards, I have a good feeling we're gonna be at a good chance to win the game on both sides of the ball.
I love your offensive keys, JT. I think if Trevor's playing, we can't have a similar game to Baltimore where everything is on Trevor Lawrence. Somebody else has to step up, whether it's ETN in the pass game, Ridley, Ingram, someone, preferably multiple people, step up in this game. But I'm going to go with the classic, the one we keep talking about because it's such a big issue. The Jacksonville Jaguars need to play a clean game. I'm going to give them one turnover, and that's it. In these last 2 games, they've turned the ball over 6 times total, 3 times per game. We're not going to win that way. Not against a hungry, good Bucs team. We need to have 1 or fewer turnovers from our offense. And then defensively, my key is that we need to finish strong. I think this is going to be a close game. I think you may see it look very similar to the Texans game a few weeks ago in Houston. And I think that there's going to be opportunities in the 4th quarter where our defense needs to make some big plays, some sacks like they did in that final drive against CJ Stroud. So I think the defense needs at least 2 big plays in the 4th quarter, sacks or turnovers.
My key for the offense is get up early, because if we get down, then the run just disappears. Press Taylor decides it's just not worth running when it is, but you need to go out and score early and get some confidence in this offense early. So I think starting fast is going to be a very big key for this offense this week. We need to get up on them early, establish the run, and then keep running it because we have the lead. So that is going to be a huge thing for this offense. And I think the way to get there is Evan Ingram, as we've talked about. Play him as a wide receiver, move him around to tight end. I think he needs to be almost a Swiss Army knife this game. They need to guess whether he's a tight end or a wide receiver, or maybe even do a little running with him. He is such a mismatch against this defense that we have to take advantage of that for this offense. And I think that's going to be a huge key. And then the key for the defense is going to be aggressiveness. Go ahead and try to get as many turnovers as possible. I don't care. The Bucs will get some touchdowns. They have really good wide receivers and a good pass, but be aggressive and go after the turnovers like we did at the beginning of the season. That's when we played the best. I think that's what the defense needs to get back to, is that aggressiveness, try to strip the ball, try to jump a route, find a way to turn the ball over and get it back to the offense in the best possible position.
Joey, can you quantify those? I love those keys, but how many catches or yards do we need from Evan Ingram? Or
I would say we need at least touchdown and over 70 yards from Evan Ingram.
okay.
And from the defense, I need at least 2 turnovers. I would like an interception and fumble, but any way as possible, at least 2+ turnovers.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with all of that. I think those are some great keys, guys. And look, if we do these things, I think Jacksonville wins more often than not. And speaking of winning more often than not, it's time for our score predictions. Right now, Joey is in number 1 at 9-5, predicting correctly so far. And that's primarily because he's picked the Jags to win every single game except for last week. We have a game that Vegas says is a complete pick'em. Coming into this week, Jacksonville was about a 2-point road favorite, and now it's a pick'em. So it'll be interesting to see. And part of that is with Trevor Lawrence's injury news. But so how does this game shake out? What do you think happens in this game?
So the last 3 games, I picked the Jaguars to win each time. And what have they done? They've lost. And what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. Well, I am pretty crazy and pretty insane about the Jaguars, but I'm not that insane. Give me the Buccaneers to break all the Jaguars' hearts. Tampa Bay 27, Jacksonville 21.
Ugh. If that happens, boy, our season is over.
Wow. I'm going to go the complete opposite of Jack. And I believe the Jags are going to win 27-21. I believe that Calvin Ridley and Evan Ingram decide to grow up and have a massive game and have both go over 100 yards. And it's going to be a great time in Duval to get back in the W and feel like we are back at the top of the AFC South.
Woo, boy, you guys could not be further apart in your predictions. Jack, you're presenting doom and gloom. Joey, you're presenting as if we're ready to clinch the playoffs the following week at home against the Panthers. And I will split the baby here because, look, I think it's going to be an ugly game. I think it's going to be a frustrating game. It's a game that both teams really want to win and both teams have a ton of flaws on. I think if Trevor Lawrence plays, this is a team that we absolutely should beat. But I don't know. It's so ugly. I feel like we're going to have a McManus missed field goal. I feel like there's going to be bad things happening. I don't know what to pick. And so for that, I'm going to go straight down the middle and I'm going to pick a 20-20 tie where the Jaguars can't get out of their own way in the overtime. And I don't think we pick up any ground. I don't think we lose any ground to the rest of the AFC teams.
Ooh,
wow.
Hot take.
The first ever tie on the Jag Bros. Have the Jaguars had a tie before?
You know, that's a great question. I'm not sure. Maybe we'll have to tweet that out if we've ever had a tie before.
I can't think of one. It's going to be an interesting game. You heard it. Very interesting predictions, a win, a loss, and a tie. But wanted to let you know before we wrap up, 2 other games that all Jaguar fans need to be watching, need to be following along, are right before the Jaguars game. And that is the Texans and the Colts. They're both tied with us at 8-6. So the Texans are at home going up against the Browns. Colts are on the road in Atlanta going up against the Falcons. So by kickoff, we may know, hey, we have a game lead or we really, really need to win because the Colts and Texans won too.
Yeah, the Houston game's going to be difficult. We know how good the Browns are. We really need that defense to show up and just smother the Texans, especially since they have so many injuries as well. That would be great if they Browns go ahead and go beat those Texans.
It's going to be some great football on Sunday, Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas to all of you, the best Jaguar fans in the world, the best fans in the world. And we love getting to do this podcast with you. As JT said at the beginning, the highs and the lows, and we'll be right here with you wherever we are as Jaguars. Make sure you do follow and connect with us on social media. And we're on every podcast platform. So make sure you hit subscribe so that you'll catch every new episode. And please give us a 5-star rating and review. We'd love to give you a shout out on the podcast. It would give us a ton of encouragement. You can tell we need it right now. But again, Sunday in Tampa, 3:05 Central Time, 4:05 Eastern kickoff, a game that the Jaguars must win, playoffs or bust. And we're going to be screaming this a whole bunch. Dude, Buffalo.